Okay, so we've just taken stock there now and downloaded the first few videos and things. And as that was happening, I was looking at the painting and looking at the view and kind of considering what to do next, whether to start another painting or to work a bit more on this one. And I feel like this is it's an opportunity here to kind of go over what I've done so far, especially since the sound this morning wasn't great, I don't think. But also I wanted to just kind of say what I've been doing, because very often I just work and talk as I'm working, and that's fine. But I think sometimes it's good to have an overview and go back. So that's what I'm going to do now. And then, so I'll show you the painting as I'm doing that. And then my plan would be to create a bit more order. So I'm going to continue working on this one for the next wee while. So, oh, thanks, Jim. And the thing to consider when you're outdoors as well is, of course, if you're using acrylic, that the paint dries, so you can't be talking for, I won't be talking for very long because the paint is on my palette. Oh yeah, I should say, I've actually got, I tore the top off this tear off palette, and I've stuck it onto my board. I've stuck it onto the table, so I've got the paints on my table on my right hand side, which is because I'm right handed. And then I'm holding this in my left hand, and what I've been trying to make there was the colour of the wall in the background, because I want to paint the wall in. I'll show you the picture though. I'll just put that there, Jim, it's fine. So what I wanted to do was to fill in the wall in the background, because I feel like there's some order missing here. Do you know? I feel like I could go in the direction of a bit more order. However, in your place, I would welcome disorder as a beginning. Like Francis Bacon said, I want to have order in my work, but for it to have come about through chaos. And so there is something about bringing yourself to the table, being aware of the sensory experience around you, feeling fully present and allowing whatever wants to come forward in terms of colour, really getting stuck in, let yourself be engaged with your painting and do whatever you feel. For a certain length of time, that's lovely to do that, and really to keep that intuitive response engaged all the way through. However, it's helpful too to build in pauses and to take stock, and that's the point at which you might want to rein in some things, to bring in some order, and that's where I'm at now. So at the beginning, I started with this painted sheet of paper yesterday. Last night I painted the paper on the grass outside and just splashed it with some. So I painted, I think it was yellow ochre I used mostly in the background for this one, and some cadmium orange as well. And then I splashed water onto the background and wiped it off. And you can't see it really anymore, but it left mottled bits and pieces. And I also scattered some drops of alcohol ink onto the background. Now, this was just stuff that I happen to have around me. You might have different stuff around you to create a feeling of texture. I knew I was coming here and I knew there were stones in the foreground. Now, I've ended up covering all those spots of alcohol ink. But still, it was something that kind of had a bit of life in it before I started. So there was something there before beginning that was a bit of a way in for me. So that was the beginning. And then the second thing I did was so when I arrived here, I set it up, I did my sketch. I've shown you, sorry, did my sketch beforehand, did a couple of sketches. Can you see it? Over this way.
That's it. Yeah.
Did a couple of sketches beforehand. This was the vertical one of the two boats that I quite liked, the stacking of the boats one behind the other. And so that was the first thing I did. Then I put my paper on the board in the same vertical way and used the kitchen paper made into a drawing tool with watered down Indian ink on it in order to draw the composition out for myself. And like you saw the video, there was bits and pieces happening of all different things being used really, but my main thing was to try and it was just really to get a feel for the place and try and pull as much as I could from here and put it here, and that was really what I was doing. So there's oil pastel, there's quite a lot of acrylic underpainting. Acrylic dries a bit matte, and so you'll find that you'll want to do things like here. I don't know if that's close enough for you to see the cabin there. There was a kind of a maroon coloured acrylic painting underneath, and then to pick out the bits where the light was really falling, I used the bright red oil pastel. And so that's the kind of order of the day in general, really, to put something down and then to pick it out with something over the top. Whether that be a piece of collage, I've just added that piece of collage there, or it could be the thick oil pastel, or it could be just thick acrylic paint as well. And one other thing that I did, Jim, when you were away, I did this. There's some stencils here. I bought some stencils online the other day, and so I put the stencil down. It wasn't this one I used all the time now, but I put the stencil down and stippled with the. I'll show you what I did actually. I used quite a big brush and pushed the paint on like that, you know, and then peeled it off, and so it gave it a bit more texture, and it brought that peachy light into the area of the stones, where I wanted this to be lifted and to be different somehow. And maybe in the photograph that Jim took before I put that on, you might see that there is something, I think something satisfying happened when that texture came in. It feels as though it pulled it forward a little bit and just made it different from the background. Now I want to do the same thing next. I want to make the wall here different from the boats. I want the boats to be the thing that's textured and alive and colourful and have most contrast. And so my aim now is to, if my paint isn't dry, my aim is to put the colour on the wall in the background. Okay, so I hope that's clear enough, and I'm sorry for the sound earlier. I wasn't talking very clearly and the mic wasn't, we weren't able to fix it. We need one that goes round my face like that really. Anyway, let's do our best here. But we've got the steps as well. I'm really grateful that Jim is here as well for the photographs, because I'll be able to do a written example or a written piece on each step of the painting too. Like, so if you didn't hear all the first video, that's okay. All right. So yeah, I was making a colour to describe the wall in the background, because I want to kind of settle a little bit now and fit the jigsaw pieces of the wall in between the masts, and just have that as a static in the background. So I'm holding the palette up so that I can see the colour of the wall, I can see the colour I'm aiming for as I'm making it. And to make that colour, I think what I need is, so the first thing you might want to do when you're making a colour is to look at I'm looking at the wall, and the closest colour in my bag looks to me to be maybe a yellow ochre, green and red, maybe a greeny reddy brown. It's grey really, but I can get that if I start with yellow ochre, that's a good place to start. So I'm going to start, because I made it already as well and I can't remember what I used, but I've got yellow ochre there, and I think if I was to use some of the crimson mixed with the hooker's green. Now, red and green and any primary and secondary will give you a grey colour. So what I've got here is the red and green mixed together, which is starting to look very close to the colour I'm aiming for. And of course I need to put white into it, but I don't know if I need any of the yellow ochre much, maybe a little bit. And then a bit of the blue. If I do put the yellow ochre in, I'm needing to put the blue in to cancel out the warmth. So maybe the red and green was enough. Right, and I've got some white, titanium white over here, and I'm still holding the palette up in order to see it against the wall itself. And of course when I put it on the painting, it might be a different thing again. It might be that the colour changes relative to the boats in my painting, so I may need to darken it again. Just going to peel off. That's the third option, that other phone that Jen has there might work for a third camera angle. There's been some grappling with technology today. Okay, so alright, so what I'm looking at there now looks to be a fairly good colour to describe the wall. I'll try it over here. I think it's maybe a bit light. It'll be okay. If I see in general, yeah, I'm going to make it a bit darker. So I'm going to mix a bit more of the red and green. I put white into the whole lot there. It's something you could avoid doing unless you're absolutely sure you've got your colour, is to avoid putting the white in until the end. Because I wanted to have it a little bit darker than it is. Okay, so that's a bit better. Do you see that? That colour to me is more true to the wall than the other one. So I'm going to try it against the white of the cabin here now. Yeah, that's okay. It's not like I'm going to fill it all in like paint by numbers, but I do want to establish the wall a bit more clearly, because it's quite a significant part of the whole image. Now there might be some power tools happening in the background, and I'm going to talk a little bit louder when that happens. So hopefully my voice will be louder than what is it? I think it's an angle grinder. What are the chances there? They're actually quite high working here. Like the last time I was here, remember I did a video which I'll probably share with you as well, of the last time I was here, and there was hailstones and everything, so you can never predict really when you're working outdoors what's going to be happening around you, and it's just part of the course. It kind of makes the whole thing a bit interesting too. Yeah, so I'm not just painting in any colour here, I'm kind of changing it slightly. It looks to me like it got a little bit more red towards the background there. I'm going to stand back now. Standing back, it's really helpful because it lets you see how things are going. You get a bit of an overview. And what I suggest to you is that you take a photograph on your phone. If you've not got much of a runway behind you when you're working, take a picture on your phone, because that'll give you the impression that you're standing 30 feet away. So I'm mixing a colour now that I see in the boat in the foreground here as well. There's a little bit of collage on there as well, actually. I put that on. When Jen was loading up the videos, I did a little bit more, just touches of collage here and there. And as I say, the stenciled thing. Putting some green up there. I think maybe I want to go back to continuing the wall. Continue the colour in the wall. So standing back is informing where that colour goes. It's important to know, is the wall brighter or darker than the boats in front of it? And it will change according to the brightness of the boat and where the sun is falling and all the rest of it. The sunlight is falling. I'm going to change brush size as well, because I want I'm going to change brush size because I want there to be a variety in the mark making. And I'm going to put some ultramarine blue into the red and green mix to make it a bit sharper, that dark. And I'm going to use that dark colour then to describe, with my eyes half closed, shadow cast on the wall by the boat there. I mean, you might find that in the evening time, this is during the day here, you might find in the evening the shadows are more exciting, they're longer shadows, but just to have something of the cast shadow of the boat there, I think it helps to anchor it onto the ground. And I'm going to use the dark colour as well inside the windows of the cabin of the boat there. That's the dark colour that represents kind of the wall as well a bit, just to clarify that. You don't end up just doing stuff everywhere, like, it's good to stand back and take stock. And when I stand back, I'm deciding it's a natural inclination, I think, for human beings to want to keep relentlessly chasing something, and that's what I'm avoiding best I can here. And see if I can just paint what it is. It's going to really make a difference. Helps that the water's in there. It's going to knock out a bit of that orange has been helpful, to dull the background. Underpainted orange has been good, I think. I do want to create a little bit more. What do I want to do there now? I think I might use some collage for that.
Maybe you speak up just a wee bit.
A bit more again? Okay. So I wanted to make the I want to use collage for that boat at the front. So that it reads as being very different from the wall in the background. Okay, like that. I think it wants to go there. Look at my blue. Okay. When you're using collage outdoors, it's a bit tricky. You can blow away and things, but just do your best. Here, what's it over here? Put the blue on it. And I might end up darkening the collage after it's gone on. Just finding a few bits and pieces, like places that would help. I don't want that to be so straight. Okay. Sending the thing around the back. See, I've got this little envelope full of collage and stencils down below there. That's where I'm going now and then. Stuff in the back of this paper. You kind of want to stay on your toes, you know. It needs to. I find anyway with painting that I need to feel like I'm on the edge all the time of it not working. So every decision feels critical then. It's quite a, when I put it like that, it sounds quite a stressful thing, but I somehow seem to enjoy it. So it must be that. There must be something about it that feels. Piece of collage just went flying off it.
Good. The best bit as well.
It was the best bit. Not sure if I want to put that on. No, it's just distracting, that one. There is a direction down this way. It's helpful to get the line of the board, the front, that line at the front that comes straight down. Let's see if I can get the other paper. I'm not talking loud enough again. I'm going to see if I can get it with the other darker brown colour. Thanks, Jim. Okay, I'll stick it on. Okay. Maybe I could put a touch of blue somewhere too in one of those boats. Very nice picking out bits for placing the collage on.